Cormani McClain is still in the portal, and last week he visited Florida along with his mom and agent to go see Sunbelt Billy. And this situation for Cormani has gotten really interesting because I've been hearing a lot of rumblings about Cormani. If he potentially does transfer to go play for Sunbelt Billy down there in Gainesville, he could be doing it as a preferred walk-on, which is really insane to think about because this dude was the number one cornerback coming out of the 2023 recruiting class. He goes to Colorado, and his time in Boulder was really, really ugly. Okay, when he first got to campus, he was out of shape. He was struggling to learn the playbook. And then when he finally got on the field against USC, he looked really good. And I was thinking to myself, bro, like, what the hell is Deion Sanders thinking? This dude's balling out, and yet you refuse to not give him more playing time? But then after that USC game, we all found out the reason why Cormani McClain wasn't on the field, and that's because he truly wasn't ready. He wasn't committed to going to class. He didn't put the necessary time in to learn the playbook. And it just was a really ugly divorce once he transferred out of Colorado. He ended up throwing shade at Coach Prime in the program. And you would think that with him being a former 5-star, the number one ranked recruit, that you would have a bunch of Power 5 teams like Georgia and Oklahoma lining up to get this guy. But instead, his options are really limited right now. And if he transfers to Florida as a preferred walk-on, this is going to be one of those low risk, high reward kind of gets for Sunbelt Billy. The reason for that is because it doesn't matter if you feel Billy Napier is the right coach to be able to have Cormani McClain going on the right path. If you can get somebody of this caliber with this kind of upside and not have to give up a scholarship, you go ahead and you pull the trigger. And this also is a really good situation for Cormani McClain to prove himself. If he really wants to change the narrative about him not being a hard worker and being a slacker, and this is going back to his high school days, his former high school coach has said similar things about Cormani McClain that many people have voiced their concerns about. But when you have to earn your spot on the team, it just changes a lot of things for you, because the problem with people like Cormani McClain is that a lot of these recruits, they want everything handed to them. They want to get a lot of NIL money, and they want to be guaranteed playing time. But in the real world, it doesn't work like that. You have to earn everything. It doesn't matter what you did previously at your former job. If you were a manager at McDonald's and you end up getting a job at Apple, you're basically starting from the bottom again. Nobody cares about what you did at McDonald's now, because your employer at Apple, they don't know you. Cormani McClain at Florida has a clean slate. Nobody's going to be tripping about what he did at Colorado. And I think that he should go ahead and take the opportunity. I mean, you'll be a preferred walk-on, but if you're as good as what you believe yourself to be, you should be able to take the opportunity, make the team, get a full-time scholarship, and potentially end up getting playing time. And hell, I saw somebody that even floated the idea around of giving him an ugly jersey number, giving him number 45 or 48. Hell, I think they should do what the New England Patriots do with all their rookies, or what they used to do when they had Bill Belichick, which is give all their rookies number 50 or number 60. That's what Florida should do with Cormani McClain. He gets on campus if he transfers there. And if you're Billy Napier, you say, hey, man, like, you got to earn everything, including your jersey number. So we're going to give you number 60. You're going to practice in this number 60. And if you end up doing really well, you make the team, you get some PT, you're going to get a pretty good number. There are a lot of Florida fans that are really against getting Cormani McClain. I've seen some Florida fans on X even type emails to Florida's AD saying how it would be a bad idea to get Cormani McClain. And I definitely understand why Florida fans are against this. Not all of you guys are against it, but a good amount of you are, because you're already pretty decent at cornerback and you don't really have any scholarships to give out for Cormani McClain. But if he's coming in as a preferred walk-on, what do you have to lose? I mean, he's a PWO. You don't have to guarantee him a roster spot. And he's already coming in with the understanding that he has to work hard to just get on the team and to get a scholarship. So I get that it ended up really ugly in Colorado. But to me personally, I felt like him going to Colorado was a bad decision. And it's not because I don't like Deion Sanders. You guys already know that I believe in Deion. I believe in what he's building in there in Colorado is going to work. It's just, I felt the decision was more motivated by his parents. Because you see, unlike the majority of coaches in college football, Deion Sanders is recognized by every parent. Your mom, your great grandpa, your uncle knows who Deion Sanders is. And a lot of black folks, when it comes to Deion Sanders, they view this dude's word as gospel. And they always encourage their kids. They're like, man, this is Deion Sanders. You got the opportunity to learn from NFL Hall of Famer, one of the best to play your position. You would be crazy not to take the opportunity. And when you got your parents in your ear, talking about Deion in such a positive light and kind of, influencing your decision, you end up going into a situation that you weren't prepared for. And Cormani McClain wasn't prepared for the coaching that he was going to receive by Coach Prime at Colorado. He was probably thinking that, I'm the number one cornerback. I'm going to come to Boulder. I'm playing for Deion. He's going to fight with me on the playing time. But nah, it didn't turn out that way, man. And there are a lot of bad habits that Cormani McClain has to get rid of if he wants to end up, reaching his potential. So this would be a really good business move for him. I also think that this will help him mature. This is a humbling experience. I mean, you go from being a number one cornerback prospect to all of a sudden transferring, having to be a preferred walk-on. I've never heard something like this before. So for you Florida fans out here that are against Cormani McClain transferring to UF, if the dude is coming as a PWO, you don't have to give up anything for him unless he actually comes in and performs well, which I believe that he can do. This dude does have a lot of upside. Listen, we know that he looked really terrible at Colorado last year, but let's not ignore the glimpses that he showed of what he could be if he's able to put it all together. Like, this dude was strapping up Brendan Rice, who was a really good receiver. So I would like to believe that we can still get a lot out of Cormani McClain as long as he's in a better situation. And Florida was the school that initially was expected to receive his services before he ended up flipping his commitment to Miami and then ultimately flipping on signing day to Coach Prime in Colorado. Initially, if he just would have stuck with his first initial thought of just going to Florida, I think things would have worked out for him a lot differently. I know the work ethic problems are a big concern, but when you're going to an environment that you weren't really prepared for, you get hit with a hard dose of reality. And that's what happened to Cormani McClain at Colorado. The dude just got humbled. He wasn't ready for it. He's young. He still has a lot of time to grow as a player. We saw Spencer Rattler, in high school. He was really immature. He looked really shitty in that documentary. He goes to OU. He gets benched for Caleb Williams after a really good freshman campaign. Then he transfers to South Carolina, and the dude just becomes a completely different person. Like, if you listen to Spencer Rattler talk now versus how he used to talk when he was coming out of high school, like, I don't even recognize this dude anymore. He went from sounding like a immature teenager to now sounding like a true professional. So if you could see Spencer Rattler make this kinds of growth in character by getting a change of scenery, I don't see why we can't see Cormani McClain do the same thing. Like, people make it seem as if this dude is a scrub. He's not a scrub. He definitely can play. The potential and talent is all there. The big question is Billy Napier the right coach to get Cormani McClain on the right path? His high school coach called him out when it came to his work ethic, and he was hoping that him going to Colorado, being coached by Deion Sanders, would be able to help Cormani McClain grow out of those bad habits. But one thing about bad habits is that it's really hard to get rid of them when you've been allowed to, just do whatever you want to, and nobody really holds you accountable. Up until Cormani McClain got to Colorado, he never has been held accountable. So I think him going to Florida now, I mean, you got to be accountable. You got to show up to your classes. You got to make sure that you're in shape, that you're learning the playbook, because you're a PWO. there's a good chance that you not only make the team, but you could be paying for school out of pocket. That's the big knock on being a PWO. It's like you're not on scholarship. Like everything you got to pay for, and you're not going to have any NIL deals coming your way. Everything is going to have to be earned. So I think that this is a really good situation for Cormani McClain if he does ultimately end up transferring to play for Billy Napier down there in Gainesville. I get the concerns from Florida fans, but I do think that Billy Napier has built a pretty good culture in the locker room. He hasn't built the winning culture, but as far as making sure that players are being held accountable and he's trying to develop them into young men, I think that his culture is pretty good for a dude like Cormani McClain that should come in there hungry and ready to prove himself. If I was him, I'd be like, damn, I went from the number one cornerback prospect in America to now having to go be a preferred walk-on at Florida. If that isn't enough to turn around Cormani McClain and get him motivated and get him on the right path, then nothing ever will be.